Hi class, this is Miss Newman. This is the informative video about the poetry and short story essay. The rough draft is going to be due Wednesday, October 27th by midnight in discussions, and it'll count as a daily grade in attendance for that week. And it's going to be for peer review. The final draft is due Wednesday, November 3rd by midnight, and it's also going to be counted as a daily grade in attendance. It'll be submitted in the content area of Blackboard. It's worth 20% of your final grade. Essay should be at least 800 words in length. For reference, your research paper was 1,000 words in length, so it's actually 200 words less, so it's quite a bit shorter. The formatting is the same as the research paper in that you have to have a 12-point Times New Roman font, double space with MLA heading and style. The difference in this paper versus your research paper is that you'll only need to have on the works cited page the literary work that you're writing about. You will not need any outside sources, so no outside research is needed. But notice the second page of this document has all of the literature cited for you. So you will be able to copy and paste for memory. This is actually in the week 6 content folder for your class. So I recommend clicking into that, and then you can copy and paste from this document for your works cited page. So remember, only the literature that you're focusing on though. So if you're focusing on 3 poems, there should be 3 citations on that works cited page. I have some topic ideas listed, but you're by no means stuck with these topics. So say if none of these ideas are really speaking to you, but you have a concept you want to write about the literature we've covered, please feel free to email me and we can chat to see if I can guide you into the right topic. You could compare and contrast 2 characters. So for instance, in The Birthmark, Elmer and Georgiana are very different characters, so you could compare and contrast them. You could focus on imagery or themes. Love is a concept that's very common in the literature we've covered. How Do I Love Thee is obvious. The 2 Shakespearean sonnets focus on love. Even The Birthmark has a toxic love, and so that's a fairly popular topic. How the author's message is or is not relevant today. So for instance, is the message in The Birthmark still relevant? Because modern day marriage is nothing like Georgiana and Elmer's marriage. So there's an argument to be made there. However, the message about The Birthmark as far as striving for perfection and what could lead to that is a relevant message. So it really just depends on the angle you're taking with the literature. How the conclusion is foreshadowed in The Birthmark in particular, foreshadowing is hinting at the ending, and by the end of the short story, it is really no surprise that Georgiana dies because there's so many hints that she will die by the experiments that Elmer's giving her, and so that's the main one I was thinking about with foreshadowing. You could also focus on the settings or symbolism. Symbolism is whenever an item represents an idea. So for instance, flowers usually represent love, skulls represent death. So depending on which literature you focus on, you could focus on the specific symbols and what they mean to you as a reader. You could also focus on death in the afterlife. That was fairly common in the literature we've covered. Of course, Because I Could Not Stop for Death is an obvious one, but even in How Do I Love Thee, the poem ends with, I shall love thee better even after death. And so that one has death in it. The Birthmark, of course, Georgiana dies at the end. And so there's a lot of death even in just these few works. I have the literature that we've covered listed under literature options, and it has the page numbers there as well in your Norton textbook, so that's very helpful. I recommend choosing the literature that was most interesting to you. So when you were reading them over the last couple of weeks, which ones really were intriguing to you? Or maybe when you were answering those discussion questions, which ones were you drawn to as far as the questions or the literature that you wanted to focus on the most? Because you did have options on those discussion questions. Notice there's still the 10 points off every day late for the final draft late submission rule, and all of your final drafts are going to be graded using the grading rubric that I used for the first paper, and will also be scanned with anti-plagiarism software. So I just want to make sure it's very clear that you will not need to use any outside sources. I just want your opinion about the literature. I don't need SparkNotes opinion or Cliff Notes opinion or Wikipedia or any website or any outside source. I just want to know what you got from the work. What was your interpretation, and for you to analyze the literature. Notice with poems, you will want to quote, it's the line numbers that's going to be in the parentheses. So say if you quoted line 1 and 2, and because I could not stop for death, in the parentheses you put 1-2. And then if you quote from The Birthmark, which is the only short story in this listing, you would have the page number that the quote came from. So if it's a poem, which is any work but The Birthmark, you'll need to use the page number. And then if it's a poem, it's the line number of the poem. So if you have any questions whatsoever, as always, please let me know. I'm always here to help you and to guide you through this process. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.